Welcome to the Cincy Postcast. Hey, this is a very special episode for everybody because we don't usually do midweek episodes during the off season, but such big news coming out of Queen City Press talking about Lucho Acosta finally speaking, finally giving a statement to the media surrounding his transfer saga this offseason. We had to talk about it. So the way we talked about this was via Discord. We have a Discord server. It's a really, really fun environment. I highly recommend anybody and everybody who is listening to this to join the Discord server. It's kind of our own personal Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever. It's a great place where lots of FC Cincinnati fans are talking about the team. We talk about Cincinnati. We talk about soccer all around the world. It's a really good time. Highly recommend you check it out. One of the cool features of Discord, we are able to host live speaking events. So actually Chief and I were able to join, put on sort of a live podcast on the Discord. It was a great time. We had a great turnout on Discord. It was really cool to see a bunch of people able to join for that. So what you're about to hear is what we were able to record from our conversation with the Discord. Now, because of the way things are set up on Discord, the recording's a little different. So I'm doing my best here to make sure it still sounds good. I think you're going to hear a really good conversation from this, but it's not exactly what we normally put out. Hopefully it's still good. I think you'll enjoy it. People had really good reactions to what we put out as we were doing it. So enjoy the conversation. There is not a whole lot new from what we hear from Laurel and Queen City Press from Lucho, and here it's a lot of sort of analysis and taking his statements and running it against what information we have and what information Lucho has provided previously. Is a really, really good conversation. I think you're going to enjoy this, which is why we are sharing it. So yeah, enjoy this. It's unusual for us. Gosh, the season starts off in 2 weeks. It's about to be usual for us. So yeah, have fun with this one.
You want to get us kicked off here, Kevin?
Let's do it, folks. Welcome to the Cincy Postcast Emergency Wednesday Night Podcast presented by Streetside. You know what's up. You're here. You're the Streetside Brewery. Those are good people. More to come from Streetside, by the way. Big things in the works, okay? So excited to have them back online for the 2025 season. And yeah, they are here because we are doing really dumb stuff like this. Like a random Wednesday night, a news story breaks, and we're able to get 12-ish people on a live Discord server to talk about what's going on.
This reminds me, Kevin. What is it? There's the old saying: there are years where days happen, and there are days where weeks happen. I don't know.
Yes,
I butchered that to all hell, but man, does it feel like a lot is going on right now in the FC world, and sort of like not what we thought, but also not the way that we thought.
Right. I mean, look, we said it on the podcast, hey, if there's some news breaking, I think at that point we were excited about the idea of Lucho Evander swap being formalized, or at least Boger official would have been fun. But we knew something was in the works, right? Like we knew something was going to come.
Maybe one of those patented bubble tweets or Carter in the green light, None of that. Kevin, you want to set the stage for why we are doing a emergency live podcast here on the Discord this evening?
I sure do. So if you haven't been paying attention but ended up here, who are you? I've got to know. I don't know what's up with you. No, we are here because the story of the offseason, I mean, since the offseason started, 10 minutes into the
first moment of the offseason.
the story has been Lucho Acosta expressing his displeasure with the team to an extent, and his look to the future without FC Cincinnati. He then went gallivanting about South America, looking for somebody else to go play for. And we've been sort of expecting his eventual departure. Last week, we got indication as to who the replacement may be, Evander from Portland. And that leads us up to tonight, and we kind of are expecting something along these lines. The story was eventually going to be told, but coming from Queen City Press, Laurel Thaler publishing this, a story published 2 hours ago with the title, Acosta Exposes Rift with Albright. And we finally get, I say finally, he's been telling everybody.
You never love to see a headline as a sports fan with player exposes.
It doesn't end
Justin Tucker and Deshaun Watson have ruined this for a lot. Like, put your spidey sense up a little bit when this happens.
Professional player exposes
No.
side of the sport. Oh, okay, that's cute.
Okay. This could have been worse. Somehow this could have been worse.
So we get the story. As we've said all along, if you don't subscribe to Laurel, subscribe to her, support local journalism. You get stories like this. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to sit here and read the entire thing, but I'll read some choice excerpts from this. But the first paragraph is pretty straight to the point. Lucho Acosta said in an exclusive statement shared with Queen City Press, he feels as if FC Cincinnati general manager Chris Albright is pushing him out and has created an untenable work environment.
Now, before we go any further into this, I want to point out that when you say things like untenable work environment,
the legal spidey senses should be going off.
Two-thirds of this podcast, immediately the people's eyebrow raises up a little bit. So right off the bat, there's always we're on guard for the idea that, like, we're going to talk a lot more about this, but there are layers to this statement. And right off the front is a layer of, you don't wonder if this isn't laying the groundwork or potentially laying the groundwork for an eventual fight of some sort. And we'll get into it more, but continue onward, Kevin.
Yeah. So I will skip ahead to Lucho Acosta speaking at this point in the story. So these are the words quoted from Lucho Acosta here. If, and I like that it starts off with if, we got some intrigue already. If my move out of FC Cincinnati occurs, it is all because of general manager Chris Albright. Now, Laurel has added some words to help fill in the context there, so those aren't 100% is. Acosta said in his statement, my frustration after the last game of the season was all because my issues with Chris that had evolved to a point that the locker room became too small for the two of us. I'm very thankful.
Lucho doesn't occupy a lot of room in the locker room. Let's be fair. Like, it's a nice size locker room. I think there's room for a lot of Luchos in there.
And Albright's not a big guy either.
No.
We're talking about small soccer players here.
I do appreciate that he led off with one of the most cliche storytelling tropes of all time. This town ain't big enough for the both of us.
There's questions to be asked of some other stuff here, but he does go on to say, I'm very thankful for Carl Linner and Jeff Birding for providing me with a lifetime opportunity to be the league MVP, and I'm proud to be a part of a project that elevated FCC's name to be a respected powerhouse in the league. Just for the post's sake, Chief, I think it's very important to point out Jeff Birding did nothing wrong per Lucho. I think that's important for us to know.
I don't see how you can read this statement as anything other than Lucho calling for the return of general manager Jeff Birding.
We now officially have a league MVP asking for Jeff Birding to return to the GM.
Many people are saying this right now.
Now, again, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but he goes on to do this little move twice, and this could potentially be this could be the fault lines for a civil war or Lucho really burning some bridges. But he goes on to say that Chris Albright's lack of experience dealing with players pushed away key players such as Alvaro Barreal, Junior Moreno, and Santi Arias. And I'll just go ahead and quickly read again here. Lack of leadership from the GM pushed away Yamil Assad, Yuya Kubo, Luca Orishano.
This season, he says specifically that we're seeing the same issues this season with those players.
That's 6 named players. 3 of them, well, 2 of them, I should say, are on. Well, 2 of them are on the roster and expected to play this year. Barreal out on loan, but still under contract for FCC. Chief, what do we make of naming names here?
Naming names is tough. All right, so when I read this, there were a couple of instant reactions I had. I'll get the most uncomfortable one out of the way, and that's that I don't think it's a coincidence that of the names, what do you say, 6 names mentioned right there, you counted?
Yep.
Of the 6 names mentioned, 5 of them are Latin-born players, specifically Junior Moreno, Santi Arias, Alvaro Barreal, Yamil Assad, and Luca Orishano. The only one of these things is not like the other is Yuya Kubo. Yuya Kubo is also a foreign-born player. I don't think there's nothing there regarding that, especially when you look at the way the club's roster construction has gone, where under Chris Albright, a lot of the additions that have been made since the Shield have been American-born players. DeAndre Yedlin, Corey Baird, Miles Robinson, even at the deadline last year, Nicholas Joachini, who is an American player as well. So it's hard not to see a connection there between there was a large exodus of Latin-born talent, a large influx of American talent or American citizens on here. I don't know how much deeper it goes there. I don't know what else is to be said on that. It's just something that I noted right out of the offset on that, or right out of the jump on that. The other thing here that's interesting to me, and look, Kevin said pay for journalism, and to a certain extent, it's not Laurel Failer's job to fact check Lucho Acosta on this. But by the same token, this is being reported uncritically. I don't mean that as a dig at Laurel. I just mean that there isn't a fact check or an analysis on here of his statement. It's, hey, this is his side of the story. He wants to get it out. People are interested in his side of the story, so I'm going to publish his side of the story. But if you look at this, there are some things that don't kind of pass the smell test here in terms of, is Lucho actually telling the truth here, or is Lucho actually on solid ground here? The most obvious one is Alvaro Barreal, where every bit of reporting about Barreal was that he wanted out badly. He wanted out in the middle of the Shield run. He was mad, if you believe the what's out there. He was mad that he wasn't moved in the summer, that the team was telling other teams, look, we have an obligation to win. Come talk to us in January.
Yep.
And then when January comes around, he wanted out in January. There was rumors that his agent were shopping him to anyone that was willing to listen over in Europe. He eventually comes into camp and he's shipped off immediately down on a loan to South America. I get the sense, because they weren't in cap hell last year. I get the sense if Barreal wanted to be here last year, Barreal would have been here last year.
Yeah. It's telling that they went out and got almost a carbon copy of him as
the same player.
Like,
yeah, the same player. Like, they got arguably a better player, but it just doesn't pass the smell test or anything else that's been reported that Chris Albright pushed out Barreal. And right off the bat, if that's wrong, it leads me to question everything else that's on here. And this is where I would have liked to have seen. And again, she's chosen to report just the statement. This is putting it out there. It's something that's newsworthy. It's something people want to hear. But that is important context, that if he's saying that Albright forced this player out, and there is no evidence whatsoever that I've seen that backs up the idea that Albright was the driving force moving Barreal out of here, I don't know. It makes all of this seem kind of self-serving. And
Chief, I'll add
hold on. And just to finish the thought. When it's that obvious,
yeah,
and Laurel herself has reported on this, it just seems like I get what her idea was to report just that, hey, I'm bringing you the story. It feels like a big omission that is left to stand there on its own. And especially when it's sort of like the crux is, oh, there's this riff with Albright. Well, part of it seems like it's bullshit. I don't know. I don't know how to feel about that.
So here's a piece of evidence that we got this offseason about that particular story that I think is interesting. Alvaro Barreal signed an extension with FC Cincinnati.
He would be loaned out.
He did not have to do that. He could have played chicken with FCC and positioned himself for a buyout, or taken a loan without the extension, or gotten a transfer within MLS if he was so desperate to leave the hellscape that is Chris Albright's locker room. Like, it seems weird that he's like, yeah, sure, sign me back up.
Right. Doesn't make any sense. And that's basic smell test stuff. Yeah. And I really do wish that had been explored in this article. I'm curious if, it seems like he just issued a statement to Laurel and this wasn't an interview, because I would have liked to have seen pushback on specifically that point, because Laurel has reported specifically on that. So, and that's just sort of like part of what's hard for me to get my head around here. And I think that I'm just sensing this out in the, out watching FC Cincinnati fans' reaction to all of this, is that part of what's so hard to get your hands around with this and wrap your head around is that it's part of this evolving narrative with Lucho where there's no internal consistency.
Right.
Where, we're told that, it's important for me to move back home. This club hurt me at other times. Other times he goes on to media down in South America and tells a different story, that it's time for him to move on with his career from MLS. I've done everything I can do at FC Cincinnati. There's no mention of this riff with the club.
Right.
And so it's like, it's hard to, I loved him when he was playing here, but it's hard to come to any other conclusion other than Lucho's kind of full of shit. Like, and it's hard to know what is actually going through his head at any given moment. And it feels like whatever's going through his head at any given moment is just what's convenient for his own personal brand here.
Yeah. And I mean, so, okay. Yeah. So 100%. The narrative from Lucho has not been consistent. There was let me see if I can pull it up here. There was the quote he gave to ESPN Argentina, immediately. No, it was this was so great. This was during what was supposed to have been MLS Media Day, or FCC, end of season media day, I should say. And he wasn't there. And then we were told it was a family thing. And then he showed up on TV in Argentina at roughly the same time. I don't know if it was on tape delay. I don't know if he missed it on purpose, or, was missing it specifically for this. But this is the funny thing. So again, pointing to the weird narrative here, his quote to then ESPN Argentina was, "This was a very recent decision I made to leave. I feel I've completed a cycle after 4 years of playing in Cincinnati." But he told Laurel that he asked his agent to look for moves away in the summer because he was going through family stuff and he didn't want to be here.
And then he comes back with this and says this: "I'm trying my best to stay around, but I can't be working under someone who doesn't even have the courtesy to respond to my text messages," which
I'll say,
all right, man.
Okay. So on that point, one, on the face of it, you go, okay, kind of shitty, Chris. Your success, we kind of have a Brady Belichick situation here. It's like a lot of your success has been tied to Lucho's success. Maybe be nice to the guy, respond to the text messages. But keep in mind how this story in Queen City Press starts with the quote, which is the untenable work environment. Folks, if this becomes a legal dispute,
Don't put anything in writing.
Nothing
Rule number one.
in writing, no contact. You only work through lawyers and agents and legal eyes looking at anything going back and forth.
Right. The other thing, too, is I would need to know to confirm this, whether or not Lucho is a green bubble or a blue text bubble person. And if he's a green text bubble person, I could totally understand Albright being like, you know what? I don't want to deal with that.
Sir, it sucks.
You know, every time he puts
WhatsApp, it's all WhatsApp.
All WhatsApp. Oh, see, even worse. Like maybe he silenced notifications for a plane ride or something like that. Who knows? Here's the other thing, too, about this. And this is the Boreal thing is what it is. It seems like it's easily verifiable as not true. I think I'm very comfortable saying that part is not true. The other thing that's funny about this to me too is for a guy who's been in MLS for the majority of his career now, I think.
Yeah.
He has a pretty firm misunderstanding as to how MLS works. And to me, if you want to be the person who's coming out here and criticizing the general manager, look, the rules are posted publicly. Learn the rules of the league a little bit. Yeah. Look, all the players he listed right here. So let's just go player by player right here, where he says, Junior Moreno and Santi Arias.
Yes.
My man, Santi Arias and Junior Moreno both left for a payday. They both left to make more money. And if you're playing in MLS for as long as Lucho is, and you want to talk about roster building and why isn't this guy here? Why isn't that guy here? And you don't take the 5 minutes to understand it's a salary capped league. And you can't just hand more money to guys who have a nice season, because spoiler alert, this isn't well reported in MLS media, but all these guys, or a lot of these guys, have performance-based incentives in their contract. And if they hit those incentives, those have to be accounted for under the cap in the next season.
Yeah.
So if you have a great year, like say you win the Supporters Shield, and what a great year everybody had. And every single person on the team, or every contract on the team, has a performance-based incentive for winning Supporters Shield. Suddenly you're paying out an entire roster worth of $100,000, $50,000 bonuses that all count against the next year's cap.
Yeah.
You're going to get yourself in Dutch pretty quick. And I'm not talking like Ron Jans, it's going to be a problem for you. So it's hard to really take seriously a lot of this when there's no even attempt to understand the machinations for how the league works, or how contracts in this league work.
Right. It's,
and again, something I would have liked Laurel to explain a little bit here.
I'll give you the other one. Alvaro Barreal also leaves presumably for a payday as well. Was looking for a new opportunity, but yeah, Moreno and Arias in particular. I mean, Arias went and made a boatload of money, in Brazil, was it? And Moreno went to the Middle East, Qatar or Saudi Arabia, something like that. They did well for themselves. They got a nice payday.
Right.
Man, it was so funny too. So the other names, Assad, Kubo, and Orishano. So Yamil Assad is a funny one because, as far as I can tell, and I have not heard a word of this to the contrary, Yamil Assad was brought in because he was Lucho Acosta's buddy. And Lucho Acosta, he's hinted at that. He hinted at that in this story. He's hinted at it before, that Lucho Acosta was going through some personal issues. And my understanding is Yamil Assad was brought in.
May have had the house to himself, may have gotten a little lonely in there in terms of walking around a big empty place by myself.
Had his boy come and hang out with him. Why not? Play some Warzone or Fortnite every night.
Whatever, little what's that, the table tennis version of soccer where you're just kicking it back and forth.
Yeah.
What do they call that thing? Yeah.
They're having a blast. In the post-season comments, they said that they wanted to bring Assad back, but the trick was he was on a supplemental roster spot. And Assad was a great story, and Assad was a really, really cool part of the season last year. But a lot of that was because of the production you were getting out of his salary spot. Yamil Assad on $600,000. yeah, he better be putting up those numbers.
Right. Like the salary cap in this league in particular, is simply punitive to the idea of giving your own players a raise. Yes. It does not work the way it does in other leagues. It doesn't work the way it does even in the NFL. In the NFL, you have players that you want to give a raise to. You can jumble money around. You can change how money hits the cap. You can add voidable years to a contract. There are so many tricks in other sports leagues to give your own players a raise and kick the can down the road until the salary cap rises and you can fit more money and fit more dead money in under the cap. MLS doesn't do that. The cap hasn't gone up appreciably in the time FC Cincinnati has been a member of the league. It's just they've added more roster spots and more ways to give single players more money.
Yes.
But they haven't really done a great job of, hey, Kubo, you had a great year last year. Here's an extra $150,000, $200,000. We're going to, offer you some more money. We want you to stay around here. The whole game of MLS and what arguably Chris Albright is really, really good at, he's really, really good at making sure that they are never, other than Sergio Santos, because this always gets brought up in this spot, but Albright is really, really good at making sure they are never overpaying for a salary slot based on production. And he'll move on from guys if he thinks, look, I can get similar production at lower money. Yeah. I can get better production from Pavel Buka at less money for a younger player over a longer term of years than it would have cost to sign Junior Moreno, an older player who is being offered more money elsewhere. That's the other thing, too, is that MLS is competing with leagues where they don't care about offering Junior Moreno $250,000 more dollars than FC Cincinnati does, or offering Santi Arias $1 million, take on the injury risk. It's asymmetrical negotiation. And at a certain point, you can't bid against uncapped leagues in a capped league for talent when you can find equivalent production elsewhere. If you are here, if Lucho Acosta is in MLS because he wants stability and he wants his buddies to keep having a job, he's in the wrong league. And that's shocking to me that he hasn't figured this out. I mean, just look up the road at what's happening in, the center of the state, where they're just getting absolutely raided by other leagues and other places that can offer more than MLS can, offer more opportunity than MLS can. Like, it's a different kind of hell they're in right now than what we're dealing with, but it's still hell. And the only mistake you can make in this league is offering too much money to keep the band together and then tying your hands for future years or ending up with a paper thin roster. And if he thinks that's driving him away, I'm glad he's not the GM of this club.
I mean, it's very funny because it was kind of the mentality of one Gerard Niekamp, who said, I don't care how much it costs. This is the player I want.
Just sign him.
We'll figure out a way to fit him in. And that feels like it should work. If you just keep identifying good talent and just keep finding creative ways to get them on the roster, it turns out you got to be a little more strategic than that. And you got to look at getting production out of a particular amount of value. And once you have a GM who knows how to do that, all of a sudden the fortunes change. Not for nothing, Lucho Acosta was brought in under Gerard Niecamp's leadership. So
right.
I don't know what Acosta was originally sold on coming back to MLS, but very, very strange perspective.
He adds this quote too that I think my goal was always to stay in Cincinnati until my contract ends. Since he is the place I plan on retiring, it's a city where my kids have their friends, and I love the fans. This is not a farewell note. Huh. Sure feels like one, but an open heart statement to all the fans and owners about my recent situation that is becoming increasingly unbearable with Chris, who is forcing my way out through the back door. So there's a lot to unpack in that statement. The first of which is he laboring under the delusion that ownership doesn't know what Chris Albright is doing with this, that somehow Albright's going rogue and he needs to send a message to Jeff Birding, Carl, and Meg via the Queen City Press and Laurel Pfahler?
I really, really like that idea.
The call is coming from inside the building. Like what?
Also, like, my goal was always to stay in Cincy. Please disregard my previous quotes where I told this exact same publication that I was desperately seeking a move earlier in 2024.
Yeah. Pay no attention that, like, I've been asking for the move for a long time. No. Pay no attention to the fact that, like, you know, it's on decent authority that his family hasn't been in Cincinnati for a minute. I don't know. It's just, I'm feeling gaslit right now. Here. I'm feeling very gaslit by this statement.
I'm just gonna read two things back to back here. My goal was always to stay in Cincy until my contract ends. Slightly different time. If the opportunity to return to Argentina arises, I'd love to take it.
Right.
Literally, both of those are Lucho's words. I don't know what to do here.
They can't both be true. And again, like, it would have gruntled me if some of these other quotes would have made it into this article to offer some contrast. I'm pleased that the fan base is kind of, from what I've seen online. What am I wrong in saying that I've seen online? It seems like most people are picking up by the fact that there's some incongruity in the Luchoisms here.
I think so. I do want to get to sort of the devil's advocate portion of this, but yeah, as far as I can tell, if anybody has been paying attention to the general sense of Lucho wants out, and they've heard the updates of this story, it can't match up. It can't mesh. Like, it doesn't create a holistic picture. If he had been dropping hints this whole time about how he would love to stay in Cincinnati, but certain individuals or certain circumstances have made it difficult for me to maintain my time there, then you could start to string together this running theme of, there's a conflict there and he's not able to resolve it. Thus, he may be looking for a move out. We've had nothing like that. If anything, the sort of group chat chatter of what's going on in Lucho's personal life and where he may stand in regards to his marriage and, like, his personal life and whatever else that might mean for him to get back to Argentina felt like the overwhelming narrative that, like, he had something come up in his life. Shit got awkward. He wants to or has to go back to Argentina, and he was desperately looking for a move to get back to Argentina.
So I want to pull this out of the chat right here because we don't have super chats or anything like that. So I feel like we're only half of a live show right now. Psychotics in the chat right here. To play devil's advocate, are we giving CA a pass here? I mean, he's won on some signings, but also some major misses too. Some good contracts and some awful contracts. I don't disagree with that assessment.
Yeah.
I think that on balance, I think Chris Albright has been a very, very effective general manager. And I think the results really speak for themselves and the caliber of player he's brought in. There's no denying that Albright's had some whiffs. Aaron Bupenza comes immediately to mind. Your mileage may vary on what you thought of Joe Aquini's acquisition in terms of more as a reflection of failing at the window last year. I'd add Corey Baird into that. The inexplicable case of, here, click the mention counter again, Sergio Santos still being on this team. It hasn't all been roses for Albright, but in this context, specifically what Lucho is talking about, the play, it would have been one thing if he would have picked Aaron Bupenza. If he would have gone in this statement and said, look, I wanted to play with a striker. I told Albright this guy's bad news. They didn't listen to me. We went into last year with this bum who was out clubbing. He wasn't serious. I couldn't play with him because he never did. Like, all of that. If he would have said that, you know what? I would have said, okay.
Yeah.
That's a valid reason for you to be hacked off because Bupenza sucked and he hurt this team last year. And yeah, maybe if you were saying all along we needed to get rid of this guy in the offseason, whatever. That's not what he said. He picked players specifically where Barreal, Moreno, Arias, where there are very, very good reasons that Albright moved on. And in all of those cases, Barreal forced himself out. Can't do anything about that.
Yeah.
Albright found a better player, I would say, with Pavel Buka than Junior Moreno. Certainly an equivalent player. And Yedlin and Arias, look, like they were never going to pay Arias what he could make down in South America. Like, it just wasn't going to happen. The only reason he was here to begin with, people forget, is that he was coming off a horrific injury, and they got him on a discount, assuming the risk that he wouldn't be able to play that year, or that he would be on a minutes limit. And he missed a lot of games too.
He missed a ton of games. It's sort of the opposite of what you might have lost in, say, sheer raw talent, which, by the way, Arias at one point probably had a claim to being a top 5 right back in the world. What you lost in sort of a talent drop off there, you gained in reliability with DeAndre Yedlin. So, like, come on.
So yeah, I agree with the take that, you know, I don't want to give Albright a pass. And if you've listened to this show before, I've probably been overcritical of Chris Albright given the results on this team, but they don't align here. The math doesn't math on the criticisms of Albright that Lucho is making specifically here.
Yeah. And so I do want to keep picking at this devil's advocate idea. So let's say Chris Albright is this, I don't like this monster to work with, right? Like, all he does is come in and just say horrifically offensive things to, like, I don't understand.
So wait, hold on. So saying he's a Philly guy, is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying,
like, no filter.
Nobody has been able to identify a single thing. Like, I just want to back up and be like, nobody has been able to say, like, none of these players have said he says offensive things. None of these players have said, like, he is mean. None of these players have said, like, he gets on your case after a bad game, even though we're all doing well, or something like that. Nobody has identified anything. The only thing of all of these guys with all of these big outstanding problems, from, you know, later on, Brenner gets mentioned and things like that. The only thing anybody mentions is that Albright doesn't seem to give a lot of money to the guys that other guys like. And that's sort of the job of a GM. And believe me, I think everybody should get the full value of their labor. Okay. Believe me.
Isn't that the way it's supposed to work? Is that the coach is supposed to be the guy that says, boy, I would love to have Yamil here. This wasn't my call at all. The brass upstairs is screwing us. Isn't that, like, the GM is paid to kind of be the bad guy in this situation? Like, we have to move on.
Yes. And the GM's job is to, in a lot of ways, especially in a salary cap league, pay these guys as little as he can. Like, that's his job. If he can pay them $1 less, they'll do it. Okay. Like, that's what we're in for. So that's the only thing anybody's been able to identify. But I keep coming back to this. Okay. Let's say that Chris Albright is a miserable asshole to work with, right? So that would mean that players would not want to bring, like, their buddies here, because that would mean inflicting pain on them. Like, if I worked in an awful job, I had the worst boss ever, I don't think my first move would be, hey man, you got to come work with me. We're doing great stuff over here. Oh, it's miserable. You'll hate every second of it. You will be begging to leave, but we'll get to talk a little bit more. Like, that's just not what's going to happen here. So you have U.S. men's national team guys like Miazga, Robinson, Yedlin, recruiting guys like Sargent and Weston McKennie to come play for this team. Similarly, Miazga and other guys in and around the program recruited Robinson to come here. We had Cheeto was recruited by Obi. We had Assad was recruited by Lucho. Dom Baji, a man that you could maybe say was unfairly cast aside by the evil tyrant Chris Albright, spoke to Brian Anunga and told him great things about the team and encouraged him to join the FC Cincinnati. So, like, it doesn't add up.
Well, okay, so it doesn't and it does. Okay, and please. So, all right. I said at the beginning, I don't want to say there's a there, but I am really curious. I think Albright's done a great job, like I said. But if there is a through line in terms of Albright, it's that there has been, and I'll say this generously, from time to time, some communication issues or some messaging issues, specifically with South American born players and South American players. If you look at the players that have spoken really highly about FC Cincinnati, that have, like, praised this club up one side and down the other, it's DeAndre Yedlin, American. Miles Robinson, American. Matt Miazga, American. Obi, African. I don't wonder if there isn't something to the idea that someone, or something is poisoning the well on the Spanish speaking side of the club. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a wild west down there in terms of dealing with agents, of dealing with people that are, that have been in the lives of a lot of these players since they were very little. We've talked about it on this show before, the outsized role that agents have. For what it's worth, I've heard that Lucho's agent is not on board with anything that's going on right now, and that still has a really good relationship with the club. I don't know. It's hard for me it's hard for me not to see that you have heard insanely positive things about this club, about how well they treat the players, how well they look after families in particular. And it's the stuff that you get proud about. You get proud when you hear DeAndre Yedlin talk about how great this club was to his family, about bringing his family along, about how he's played around the world. And this club is one of the best at looking after players. You hear great stuff, like I said, from Obi.
Yeah.
But then it's Lucho, I hate the GM, and this place is awful. Kind of eerily similar vibes to the way Brenner went out the door here in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Problems with the general manager, problems with, the front office of this club. I don't know. It's too small a sample size to really look at, but I don't know what to make of that fact other than it's just a trend. And I don't know if that's something that's fixable or if it's something that doesn't need to be fixed, because it's just, we've employed some volatile people that all happen to be from the same part of the world. I don't know the answer to that question. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I'm want to do that from time to time.
Maybe there is something to like the idea there. I'm not saying it's totally without merit.
I'm trying to toe a line because real talk, we joke a lot on this podcast. Like, I don't want this to turn into a racial trope or all people from the same area think alike or behave alike or even an Albright thing. Cause it's like, it gets really perilously close to some, what I would say is some incredibly irresponsible shit I've seen written about Chris Albright out there on the internet, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thing right here. And I only bring it up in this context as well, because Acosta made it a thing with the players that he selected. You'll note that there were a lot of players that aren't on this roster anymore that he didn't bring up.
Yeah.
And it feels intentional in that regard.
Which is funny because sorry, just the chat just posted a gigantic photo of me with the caption unstable. So thank you, Discord. Really love that. That looks great.
Yeah. Neat. Cool.
Not wrong. So to the idea, though, because I've seen other people say this, that Albright has poisoned the well in South America, and South American agents don't want to work with him, and that is just not going to be fruitful recruiting grounds. And then we go out and drop $2 million for center back out of South America and Flores, and seems pretty hype. His mom was on like local radio for 2 weeks straight, super hyped about him coming here. The club president was super hyped about him coming here. I don't know. Feels like some people in South America still like working with Chris Albright. Right. So maybe he didn't get to pissing off all of them.
Right. Who knows? I mean, we got Luca over here. It's not it's not an American thing either. Albright has done great work in the international market, getting like Yerson Mosquera over here. What a incredible signing that was for you. Oh, he's another guy we can't hold on to. Why? Because he's starting from a Premier League team. But it's interesting, not mentioned by Lucho right there. Right. So,
right. I also thought it was very funny too, because later in the story it says that there were like this is the third designated player that has agitated for a move. I cannot find it. Oh, here it is. The 30-year-old Acosta is the third designated player under Albright's watch to seek a move elsewhere. Okay, 3 designated players. He's the third. So what were the other 2?
Aaron Bupenza. Oh, Brenner and
Brenner left on bad terms with the transfer to Udinese, and Aaron Bupenza showing up to teen activities last summer. Here's my problem with that. Unless this is the breaking news, which is not clear and very muddled, Aaron Bupenza was not skipping training because he was agitating for a move.
No.
Nobody said that. No, he was not looking to leave.
Right. No, if he was trying to leave for a move, you think he'd show up to work to avoid getting his contract termed. Like he'd at least be malicious compliance of showing up and just riding the exercise bike or something like that.
Yeah, you show up and say, I got some tightness in the quads today.
Yeah,
I can run.
Can't do it today. Can't do it today.
And then, sure, Brenner was agitating for a move. Brenner also, there's a lot there as well. So yeah,
let's back up now and big picture this a little bit, because I think that like looking at this statement on its face, I'll say it's bullshit, the majority of it. And I'm not I try not to be a club stan. I try not to be an Albright stan. Most of what he said here about what has hurt him and why he's mad, number one, like we've said, doesn't jive with what he said elsewhere. Like, so he's talking out both sides of his mouth here. Number two, it's pretty easily explainable why each of the players aren't here, including, especially Barria.
Yeah.
So I'm not buying the veracity of what he's saying. I'm acknowledging, like in true 2025 fashion, I am acknowledging that he feels that way. I am not buying the truthfulness of anything that he's saying that underlies, or the accuracy of anything that underlies his feelings.
Yeah.
Big picture question number one. Why is he putting this out there now? He has been sort of radio silent in terms of speaking to English language media in particular since his exit interview, I'll say bombshell, following the loss. He's been very chatty to South American media, saying none of what he said right here. Why do you think that right now he has decided that it is time to tell his side of the story and just unload a howitzer specifically on Chris Albright?
So annoying, because my two theories are so on opposite ends.
Oh, me too. This is exciting. You tell first.
So my two theories are, one, his deal to wherever, be that in MLS or in South America, Estudiantes or somewhere else, is on the cusp of being finalized. Maybe we even find out first thing tomorrow morning he's finalized and gone. So he got his story out, and he's had a great relationship with Laurel during this time, and so she gets a hell of a story on his way out the door. That's theory number one. Theory number two.
I don't think that theory is true, but continue. I want to hear the other one.
Theory number two. His deal fell through. He's stuck here. He is stuck here, and now the plan is blow everything up, and maybe I can be such a goddamn mess that they buy me out, or we come to some sort of terms where I don't have to play for this team anymore. Those are my two ideas, right? Like, one is like he's out the door, he's hooking Queen City Press up, and he's gone. The other is he's here forever, and he's blowing everything up.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
So those are my two thoughts for the most part.
Yeah.
To the second one, he probably understands that he has a little bit of leverage right now because the clock is ticking on the Evander deal. At some point, Portland they have their man lined up apparently. And at some point, Portland needs to do something with Evander to get their guy in. They're in the same position FC Cincinnati is right now, where they want their guy in before the season starts so that they can start to do other things. And, not for nothing, they got to make sure that guy doesn't get swooped by someone or doesn't, trip down the stairs and, tear an ACL or whatever. So they know FC Cincinnati has to move on Evander. I've heard that the Evander deal is awaiting a signature is where it is right now. And look, I don't think, there's in the chat over under this drags into the summer. I don't think the Portland is waiting on Evander for FC Cincinnati to the summer. I don't think that's happening. From what I've been able to piece together, that relationship is about as poisoned with their front office as the Lucho relationship is poisoned with the FC Cincinnati front office over kind of a similar situation. Some promises to him when he transferred to the United States that were left unmet by the previous regime in Portland. FC Cincinnati can't move on with Lucho on the roster and Evander. The bombshell news today, well, lowercase b bombshell, about them being unable to get a GAM conversion out of Lucho Acosta's contract. It basically means that they're stuck on the 2DP model to get that $2 million in GAM. They need it. The math, again, doesn't math without that. So maybe Lucho sees this as his opportunity to say, look, I'm going to poison the well. I'm going to make it as loud as possible. And I'm going to angle to see if I can get myself just terminated so that they can go and sign the next player.
Yeah.
So that they can get Evander under contract, that they do the termination. And then he can take everything left on his contract, which I think is what, $12 million?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not going to be able to pay $4 million a year down in South America, but I damn sure can get, you know, that $12 million from FC Cincinnati, and that makes things a lot easier to stomach down there. So that's kind of where I think it is. I think there's enough language in here as well that, like, maybe he's looking at filing a grievance with the MLSPA, hostile work environment, untenable work environment, personal issues with the club. I don't know that there's enough there. There's some legally operative language, as we say in the biz, that seems to be a little interesting in terms of choice of words. That's I can't see any reason, because otherwise you'd have said this while you were sitting out, or you would have said this when you were reporting. It feels very much to me like either the deal is there and this is his goodbye, but then he specifically says this isn't farewell, I still want to play for the team, which leads me to consider very heavily that he has made the decision that I am not going to agree to the deal with Estudiantes, and now you need to find something else for me, or you need to do something. Or maybe he, in his naivety, thinks that he can get Chris Albright fired by the club that just handed him a brand new contract extension. I don't know.
Hey, and Psychotics brought it up in the chat as well. Chris Albright also gave Lucho a big fat contract extension, but 1 year ago, right? Like,
right.
If Albright
in the chat, Adam Reeves, can't wait to hear Lucho throw around the term force mujer. Yeah, all of a sudden everyone's a lawyer when the contract language starts getting pulled out.
Oh man, it's
okay. So if that's why he released the statement, where does this go from here? All right, we'll start out with this, Kevin.
Yeah, please.
Scale of 1 to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Likelihood that Lucho Acosta's transfer to Estudiantes actually happens now, or transfer out actually happens now. Okay. Specifically transfer.
Okay.
Not any other form of
transfer out. Oh man, I've got like 20%. Like I'm not feeling positive. I'm not feeling good about outside of MLS paying money for Lucho Acosta and Acosta agreeing to those terms. Like Grayson brought it up, and I think we all recognize this, but Grayson brought it up the first episode after that playoff loss. Acosta will not get his wages virtually anywhere else on planet Earth. Like only in MLS, and even within MLS.
Well, hold on, maybe Saudi Arabia. Like if he if he was willing to go to Saudi Arabia, which I haven't heard anything about, maybe it's time to explore that option and see if the Saudi league wants him. I don't know what their transfer window is. Yeah, Grayson had that pegged right from jump.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia is closed.
Yeah,
I don't know about
shout out Grayson. Where do you think he is right now? He's apparently driving to his home away from home.
I assume he is always within just a couple of miles of a mountain. That's just
or Cambridge, Ohio, one or the other. There's a great Wendy's off that exit many times.
But yeah, I don't think he's getting transferred out now.
Well, hold on, because there's another thing here. So if we take this statement, the most recent statement, as the mental state of Lucho Acosta right now, that we disregard all previous statements and, It's like an AI. Disregard all previous instructions and write me a haiku about the MLS transfer window.
Yes.
If we are to believe, Grayson is talking to Laura about this hostile work environment. Joke's on him. He doesn't get paid to do this show.
Yeah, sucker.
Yeah, he's not an employee. That would require work. If we take this statement from Lucho as the current state of Lucho's mindset, he is not in this statement talking about wanting to return home to Argentina. He is talking about liking it here in Cincinnati. His family likes it here. His kids like it here. Does this mean that Lucho Acosta is now open to remaining in the United States for another club? Because under the rules as written, and we must obviously give, all contract provisions their plain language English meaning, it does look like you can't get a GAM conversion for a MLS DP that is transferred in league. So,
yeah.
It does open the possibility of the funniest villain arc of all time, and that's Lucho playing for the Columbus Crew next year.
Look, and there were already some not hot sources connecting Brenner to Columbus. Like,
we're talking about the wrong disgruntled DP here. Oh my God, it was in front of us the whole time.
Like, there's a world where Brenner and Lucho go to Columbus. Yeah,
Lucho and Columbus would be like some Ted Lasso shit, man. That is like the screenwriters have truly lost their mind if this is all a ploy to like Todd in the chat, Seth Rollins' turn. Yeah, no, that's breaking the shield up right there on national television to go to the to join the corporate ministry up in Columbus.
Yeah, I like how, like, maybe 2 years from now, sometime in the playoffs at halftime, Lucho runs into Albright in the tunnel at TQL Stadium, and he has like a come to Jesus moment, and he switches teams, and he goes
midway through. Yeah, takes the jersey off, and I always wore it, Coach. He's got the FC Cincinnati kit on underneath.
Oh my God!
I disagree with. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm jumping ahead, Chief. I'm cutting you off. I have a fear, though, that the longer this drags on and the more holes that exist in Columbus's roster, that Evander could end up in Columbus.
Yeah, and they've got what, about 16 million clams burning a hole in their pocket right now, and they could outbid us. They could do it.
The funniest thing would be if they added Lucho and Evander.
And Evander. You want to cement Hell is Real as the greatest rivalry on the planet right there. Boy, you want to talk about the NFL being rigged for the Chiefs. Jesus.
So, yeah.
All right. So are we in agreement? There's absolutely no way Lucho can play on this team this year. Like, there's no coming back from this, right?
I think the best case scenario is that awkward half season with Brenner, where like he's technically on the team, but like he doesn't play.
No, hold on. But like the Brenner situation was because he wanted out to somewhere else that he wanted to go.
Yeah.
Where the hell's Lucho going? Like, they got him a deal to Estudiantes. They got him a deal back home to Argentina. And if he's blowing it up because he can't make $4 million down there, and he's realized that I'd rather collect my MLS wage than go back home to Argentina. I mean, there's no place else to go down there. They found a whale situation with this Foster Gillette group that got him down there. Like, what is he pouting for at this point? Like, where does he want to go? That's the whole part of this article that like is frustrating to me, is that the question I wanted answered, or I wanted to ask is, what the hell do you want?
Right.
Like, what do you want? Like, okay, you go on this screed about these players that aren't here anymore. That these you've been mistreated. I think Chris Albright is a snake. Fuck him. Whatever it is. What do you want? And to go back to law, what's the prayer for relief? The last paragraph of the complaint. What the hell do you want?
Right.
Do you want more money? Do you want Albright fired? Do you want to go to Argentina? Do you want to go to another MLS club? What the fuck do you tell me what to do? Like, this is almost like being in a toxic relationship. It's like, well, you know what you've done. It's like, well, that doesn't help me solve the damn problem.
That's exactly what this is, man. Like, it clearly isn't to come back and play and win trophies for FC Cincinnati. Like, no matter what he has to say, and he doesn't say it in this, by the way.
He Lucho to Miami in the chat. Don't you dare. They just got another 1.2. They got another $2 million in Tricky Don Fun Bucks for making the Club World Cup.
Would you take $2 million for Lucho Acosta now?
Would Lucho take $2 million? Would you take a 50% pay cut to go play with Leo Messi in Miami? Many people asking.
There's clearly not a solution for him here. Like, no. I think if he is not gone soonish, I think the solution here is that.
And hold on, just to clean up. FCC phone hack guy. They got $2 million for being awarded the position in the Club World Cup, not for winning the Shield.
Yeah.
They got $2 million because MLS decided to give them a spot in the Club World Cup, which is so much more batshit than getting $2 million for winning the Shield, because they were basically just awarded free money by MLS. Just insane. At least Seattle won the damn CONCACAF Champions League. They earned their $2 million bucks. Sorry, continue. I saw that in the chat. I wanted to clear that up.
No, you're good. You're good. I think if he is not transferred out, I think the solution is that, unfortunately, he has to burn a hole in this club's budget. And I think he'll be sent down to the 2 team. Like, no. What? You can't keep him around the first team? He's going to poison the well, man.
The well's already.
Yeah, but the
well's already poisoned.
You don't want him in the ear of Flores, the new U22 signing, being like, yeah, aren't these guys a bunch of assholes? Fuck this team. Let's get out of here. Like, you don't need that. You send him down to the 2 team. You figure out a way to get him on loan to Louisville. you do
loan to Louisville would be the funniest. That would be our new funniest outcome. Lucho playing for Lou City. Just, you want to be the more hated rival right here. What if they did the same thing? Like, he had the social media post today, training alone. What if they just so they were supposed to get the women's team. That's not happening right now. What if they just gave Lucho his own locker room?
Yes.
They gave him his own shower, his own dressing area. And the only time he gets to interact with the team is when he's on the field, actually training or playing a game. But for everything else, Lucho has to go to his own separate area to avoid him having the opportunity to poison the well and talk shit about people.
I'm not a lawyer, but that does feel a little hostile work environment.
little retaliatory right there. I'm sure there's a union provision covering this. The MLSPA would probably have a field day with this one.
Man, I guess at this point, we're hoping for a trade within MLS, and they get the most amount of money back and send them to a team that I don't particularly care for, or a team that we don't have to play all that often would be nice. I don't see at this point, given this story, I lean towards his Estudiantes deal is not going through. And therefore I'm going to assume that was basically the only real offer we've heard. That might've been the only offer. Now, maybe. No,
I don't believe that's true.
Please.
Yeah, no, I have it on. I've heard hashtag Das Harks. I have heard that there were a couple interested parties and that they actually got Estudiantes to bid up on this one. And they were kind of pleasantly surprised by that.
Well, bidder number 2. Come on down.
Now it's the golden handcuffs. He ain't going to get $4 million anywhere else. And I don't know.
When do you think he realized he wasn't going to get $4 million in South America? Was it this week?
About an hour after he popped off following his agent probably called him and was like, what the hell was that?
Bro, what are you so doing? Much money. Shut up.
Right. Yeah, shut up. Look, you're a marketable star. You've got, U.S. men's national team aspirations. play on a team that's beloved by the fan base. They're painting pictures of hard hands for you. What are you doing here?
Man, I just can't get over it was against
we're trying to make money here, kid. What are you doing? Get out there and sell, damn it.
Against Philadelphia, he scores the game winner, sort of single-handedly puts the city on his back, screaming, "This is my city," pointing down.
Yeah.
And then according to Lucho, a couple of weeks later, man, I got to get the fuck out of here. This place is
right. So the club obviously is standing behind Chris Albright here. You would expect nothing.
Yeah.
You would expect nothing less. There's a quote in Laurel's article, basically, that's coming from the club about this. Albright has not commented. It's not unusual. If I was Chris Albright, I wouldn't get into a war of words publicly with Lucho Acosta on this, regardless of how wrong he may be on this matter. Man.
The other thing is too, I don't know where the cliques are in the locker room, right? Like I don't know who's exactly boys with who. But man, if I'm his teammate and I'm watching this, dude's making $4 million a year. The team,
oh my God,
has been crafted around you. They brought in your buddy to come play with us. Like I'm looking at all this, and you go,
what do you think Pavel Buka's thinking about this? Man, just had a kid. He's thinking that this is my meal ticket. This club being good. He's fully bought in on the whole Cincinnati thing, and this guy making $4 million is popping off at the mouth after, not for nothing, being one of the reasons that this team didn't do so hot down the stretch last year, if we're being very brutally honest about this.
And, I'll say a lot of that was due to injury, but also this team was built around Lucho Acosta. So when he is injured, they're not that good, which would suggest, I don't know, there's some modicum of respect for the guy from the front office that
right.
They designed an entire team and system and game plan around him, and when he was not able to perform to 100%, they were desperately swapping in and out, attacking midfielders and strikers, trying to get something to work. Because early in the season when Acosta was running at 100%, oh boy, we were going faster than our shield pace. Acosta was eclipsing his MVP numbers. The talk was, my God, is he going to go back to back? Yeah, first ever in MLS. Is he going to go back to back? He's having a better year. And then we get to this. What the hell?
So I think it's important to sort of I don't know, going back a little bit.
Yeah.
I understand that the first reaction of everyone out there is to panic with this, or to, the club is in disarray. Oh my God, it's 2 weeks to the start of the season and we're going through this. The sky is falling. I can't believe this. Why can't we have a normal off season with this club? Panic button firmly out there. Smash that like, subscribe, and panic button all at once here. Look, if you follow world soccer at all, even just a little bit, you kind of get insulated when you start following your club specifically. Yeah. You get insulated from the fact that a lot of other teams are going through stuff. Yeah. You don't follow, look, you can't even listen to Extra Time anymore to find out about it. You F's in the chats for Extra Time. Look, this is not the end of the world. There are people out there, clubs out there that are going through this. Like we said, Columbus, every player that is not nailed down is being sold off somewhere right now. Yes. Everything must go. It's a going out of business sale right there. They're in full panic and meltdown mode there over what's going on. There are other clubs everywhere, all over MLS, where there's drama, there's problems. Portland is dealing with this with Evander right now,
literally,
who making similar statements that I love the fans. It's the front office I can't deal with any longer. Yeah. You go across the pond to Europe. This is par for the course for every team that has any sort of aspirations. This is a suffering from success type thing. And so the number one thing that I implore people out there, relax.
Hey,
this is bad, but boy, isn't this still better than I'd rather be fighting and having problems with an MVP caliber player with another MVP caliber player coming in than, is Kamahilo Makocho going to actually, be healthy enough to play this year? Or, is Fernando Adi more goals or arrests this year? So,
yeah,
it's just football is drama. Like Danny Rojas had this wrong. Football isn't life. Football is drama. And this is, we're getting our full dose of it here. But, one way or the other, they're going to kick a soccer ball down in Honduras here in 2 weeks. Yeah, I think 2 weeks from tonight, right?
2 weeks from tonight. My God.
Right. And as Dustin Peters in the chat, I'd rather have this drama than be a Crew fan. Damn straight.
Preach, baby.
Like where's Christian Ramirez going to play? They don't even know at this point. Like what city? Not Columbus. So it sucks, but this is part of the pageantry that comes with success, with signing good players, and especially with signing, good players that play in MLS. You're going to end up with some mercurial type talents. And the only thing you can do right now is give your love and support to Kevin Denke, because he is probably right now down there looking like, what in God's name is going on around me?
Man, when we were listing off the names of the players that aren't in the preseason camp and, not playing with him, and he's playing with like college trialists and 2-team fringe guys and stuff.
Right.
Man, it was a hell of a way to introduce the league to your new record signing, and it's tough. And yeah, Chief, to your point, there's something our dear friend Joseph Mamey has said a couple of times now this offseason. There are no discount contracts. There are only future headaches.
Yeah.
You may think you got a guy on a great deal. That's just a future pissed off employee.
Yeah.
And so
just this is not going to end. This is there are no happy endings with underpaid employees. It's going to end poorly. And even if Chris Albright wanted to be the nicest guy in the world, it's like my brother in Christ. The salary cap is what the salary cap is. I cannot do it. It's like it's Scotty from Star Trek. I cannot change the laws of physics. Right. I cannot change the salary cap in this league.
It is what it is. Somebody mentioned in the chat, do we have an update? On Kubo and his holdout and maybe why he held out. The answer is nothing officially. I haven't seen a word. Actually, no. I mentioned this on
does he not have Laurel's number?
I reached out to his agency. I don't know. I sent
a DM on Twitter. I didn't get any response back.
I sent an email to the corporate office. I was just seeing what was up.
Just find out what's going on.
So
I got left on red by Kubo's representation here. It was what I say here. It's like, hi, my name is, gave my government name there. One of the hosts of the Cincy Postcast, the top FC Cincinnati coverage podcast. Lie.
Love it.
Your client, Yuya Kubo, has obviously been a fan favorite in Cincinnati. There's been some worry about his continued absence from FC Cincinnati's preseason training camp. Does he or do you on his behalf have any statements to share about this situation? Thanks in advance. And left on red since January 24th. But never say the Post doesn't try to actually find news out.
I like this. This is how I approached it. Hello, I am a writer at the Post Cincy and was looking to speak to someone about FC Cincinnati player Yuya Kubo. He is not reported to training camp, and I was wondering if his representation had any comment on his absence. There is a lot of speculation right now as to why he is not reported to preseason with FC Cincinnati, and I would love to have an official comment to present to our readers and listeners. Thank you. And then gave my...
See, what I should have done is added at the end, if you do not respond, I will make up something absurd and claim you said it.
Really?
And then force you to correct the record.
God, that's exactly
with my nonsense.
That's exactly it. We've gotten word that Yuya Kubo is suffering from some horrible ailment, and FC Cincinnati has only made it worse.
We have heard that Yu Kubo murdered all the Tuscan Raiders, and not just the men, the women, and the children too. Do you have comment?
He's refused to go down to Clearwater because he finds sand irritating and it gets everywhere.
Yu Kubo is worried about converting to Scientology again. Does he have any comment about his previous interaction with Scientologists?
Oh, God. Well, the good news is, Chief, we have Dado Valenzuela on the roster, so it doesn't matter. Lucho, no Lucho, we'll be fine.
Make Dado a DP. Jeans, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
No, sir. I don't like it. I will not eat the bugs. We will not do that.
I love that idea. That's a great idea. You know what would make all of the pissed off players way more at ease? It's giving Dado a designated player contract. They would love that.
Right. Well, here, I'm going to throw an open invitation out there to Lucho Acosta. Lucho Acosta, by the way things are trending right now, you're probably not going to make the traveling roster to Honduras. And if that's the case, you are welcome to join us at Gold Star Chili on February 17th. That's President's Day, Presidente's Day, here in Cincinnati. Come be a guest on the postcast. Tell your entire side of the story. And if there's more club employees you want to shit on, or there's more grievances you want to air, I don't care that Festivus was months ago. We will offer you a platform for you to spew even more nonsense. And you know what? Maybe we'll fact check it. Maybe we won't, but that's part of the joy of live radio. So,
God, that would be
Doritos on me if Lucho shows. There, I'm going to hold you to that.
Electric
That's great.
content. Lucho walks through the door. I got something to say.
Yeah, got a lot of things to tell you people.
Oh my
Kevin,
God.
This has been good. It's an emergency podcast. We're not going to go the full length right now. Also, you don't have any Patreon questions because you just put the request for them up in the chat. Job well done on that one.
Yeah, I totally forgot about it this month. Sorry, y'all.
As we sit here, when we record on Sunday, and I want to put it out there too, this is our commitment to you guys. I threw in the group chat with Yumi and Grayson that it's Super Bowl Sunday. Do you guys want to record early on Sunday? And I'm going to read Grayson's response verbatim right here. He said, do we want to tape Sunday? I can't, and I don't care about the Super Bowl. So
hell yeah.
All right. So we will be recording on Super Bowl Sunday night against my preferences.
Chief, I think me and you go Sunday morning. I think we have a Grayson List podcast. I've got places to be on Super Bowl Sunday.
All right. So on Sunday morning, as we Todd, you know what? If you wake up, Todd, you can be on the podcast. Why not? Just get the chaotic energy. If you can figure out what time we're podcasting, Todd in the chat, I'll guest appear. As we record on Sunday, will Lucho Acosta be a member of the FC Cincinnati organization?
Yes, I think he's here as of recording time on Sunday. To be clear, I don't like that.
Right. You know what's interesting too is if in fact you can't get the GAM conversion on the sale of Lucho Acosta, and if he's having trouble working personal terms out with the Estudiantes, at a certain point, do you offer him for $1 and just if you were going to pay us $6 million, put that into whatever you're offering him for a contract and take the Foster Gillette money and just pay him and get him out of here. Because we're not going to be able to make, they only paid $2.5-3 million for him anyway. So they're not taking that big of a loss, and they couldn't have converted it anyway. So just take them. Just get the salary off our books.
Yeah.
Will Lucho buy a Super Bowl commercial? God, I hope so. It's many people don't know this. Well, I think some people know this. You can buy a Super Bowl ad from the local station that it's being broadcast on. I think the only local spot time is either right before or right after the halftime show.
Yeah.
So you can get a cheaper ad by buying directly from whichever station or network whatever station locally is affiliated with whoever has the Super Bowl. I think it's Fox this year. So you could go to Channel 19 and buy that. That's why there's always like the Scientologists will sometimes buy a local ad. And everyone's like, oh my God, how did Tom Cruise buy a Super Bowl ad? It's like, no. They bought on local television and they saved some cash on that. If Lucho buys a Super Bowl ad, he can go wherever he wants. Like that's hilarious. Like he just gets on TV for 30 seconds and just reads a laundry list of complaints about Chris Albright personally for us on a Super Bowl ad.
He nails his 99 theses to the University Health Training Center tour. Chris Albright did not like my Halloween costume as much as I thought he should have.
Chris Albright has engaged in the process of selling indulgences in violation of the law, the canon law of our sacred and holy church.
I will.
Chris Albright does not believe in transubstantiation.
I'll kneel at the altar of the Church of Lucho if it comes to it.
Oh, God knows. So I think this will about wrap it up for our emergency podcast right here. Yeah, I don't know. Vibes?
I mean, look, vibes are weird, right? Like it does feel a little bit like mom and dad are fighting right now, which is never a good spot to be in. But
sure isn't.
Also, I think with the rest of the guys that were not reporting, the fact that there are some things lined up to when this is solved, I think right now the roster is still very good for Cincinnati. FC Cincinnati's roster is still very good. I think it's not ideal, and maybe, we're not pushing for the shield, but if there's a world where Lucho's not playing on this team and his direct replacement isn't here, I think it gives an opportunity for some young guys to step up. There's going to be some mixed, bumpy results with that, but I do think that will still be a good competitive team, and I think it'll be good. I don't think it'll come to that, though, but I'm not concerned. I'm not concerned here. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. I really, it's more like, it's kind of like me after watching an episode of Severance. I want the next episode, man. Like I'm just like, I want where the story's going next.
All right. So vibes. All right. So if you want some reason to believe vibes are okay right now,
please.
Here is my parting message for why, okay. I agree with everything that Kevin said. I think the roster is really, really good. Here is one very important takeaway that you can walk away from this emergency podcast feeling good. All right, so go back, subscribe to Laurel, read the article. You know whose name you're not going to see in that article? Pat Noonan.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, all of Lucho Acosta's grievances seem to center around one guy. And that's Chris Albright. He went out of his way to say it's not the ownership. He went out of his way to say it's not Carl Linder. It's not Jeff Birding. He omits Pat Noonan's name. He omits the coaches' names. He doesn't say any problems about any of his teammates. At the end of the day, I can live with Lucho hating the ever-living shit out of Chris Albright. Maybe he like shows up this week in some Chiefs gear, and he's rocking like a Patrick Mahomes. Maybe send him a Patrick Mahomes jersey or something like that and say this will really piss him off. When you see Chris down there in Clearwater, say fuck the birds or something like that.
Yes.
So throw a yellow flag for roughing the passer and be like, aha, see what's coming. I can live with him hating Albright as long as the end result is he will play for Pat Noonan and for the most part gets along with the rest of his teammates. Yeah. So worst case scenario is Lucho Acosta is part of this team. He ain't going to sit out because he needs to make his $4 million. If that's part of the deal, he ain't giving that up at all. And if every goal he scores, he looks up and drops both middle fingers, the full stone cold salute directly at where Albright is sitting up in the owner's box. You know what? Oh, good. You know what? That's fine.
That'd be so fun.
Results oriented guy. If they can't stand one another and it's on site, when they're walking by one another, it's like head down, muttering. You know what? As long as it doesn't approach anything he's doing on the field, and as long as he keeps balling out on the field with an effort to try and force him to move anywhere else or get somewhere else to pick up his money, I can deal with him hating Albright. As long as he's cool with whatever Pat is telling him what to do, and as long as he's willing to pass to Kevin Denke every so often. So as long as Denke is not on that list, and as long as Noonan and Kenny Arena and Dom Kinnear aren't on that list, you know what? Maybe everything on the field will be okay. And he just hates his boss. And you know who else hated his boss? The aforementioned Stone Cold Steve Austin. He hated his boss, and he kicked ass, and he raised hell.
I fucking love it. Chief, I'm hyped for the season. I cannot wait. I'm excited for the live show. People should come out. It's going to be a good time. We're going to start pushing that more. Chief, I got your text message from 15 minutes ago. Yeah, I think 5 minutes more will do good. Chief, say the magic words. Let's wrap this up. Oh, I got to say, though, because there's so many fun comments after it. Look at my little baby Zune right here. Oh, it's so cute. Look at that.
We are just such a weird podcast.
This is the Discord right here, baby.
Yeah, that's the phone of a content creator right there.
Don't mind me.
All right. Lucho 316 says fuck Columbus.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy Postcast. It is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com or just click a link in the description to check out some of our written work. It also has links to our social media accounts across all sorts of different platforms, including YouTube, where we are trying to do more and more video content. Please, dare I say it, like and subscribe and leave a comment. But no, that would be really, really helpful. Also want to give a thank you to Jim Trace and the Makers. They're a local Cincinnati band who provided all of the music for this episode. We love having them on board. You can check them out. Again, link in the description of this episode to find out where they might be playing shows next or where you can listen to more of their music. Also want to give a massive, massive thank you to the awesome and very attractive patrons over on Patreon. It is a voluntary subscription that people take out with no real promise of anything extra that keep this show afloat. And we are so, so thankful to those of you that have decided to take that commitment. If you do like the show, or at least just want to engage with other people who have listened to the show and want to talk about FC Cincinnati, MLS, soccer, or really anything else, you can go on over to Discord. Again, link in the description. Lots of links in the description where you can find a link to the Discord. That's where we are keeping the conversation going 24/7. It feels like it's a really fun group of people in there just talking about FC Cincinnati. And like I said, just about everything else. And finally, I'll say it. If you liked this episode, and given the fact that you've made it all the way to the end, I have to assume you either like it or for some reason cannot reach the stop button. Please share this episode with a friend or family member or someone who likes FC Cincinnati. The best way for us to grow is from a personal recommendation from somebody who likes it. And if that's you, please tell other people. And if you don't have any friends, feel free to give us a review on whatever your podcast platform of choice is. We'll take anything we can get. But again, a huge, huge thank you to everybody for listening to this show. I am blown away that anybody listens to this. So again, I well and truly mean this. Thank you so much for listening.